He made it on his girlfriend's laptop using GarageBand, like this simple music production software. And I was like, what? And so I immediately was like, this is something special. So I was like, Tom, I will. Tom was like delivering pizza at the time. I was like, Tom, I will buy you a laptop. I will buy you Logic Pro. I will get you whatever gear you need to like get serious about this if in return you make music for me. And I will train you how to make music for my videos. And he was like, okay. And I was sort of thinking, like, I've sort of helped people out before like this, where I like take them under my wing, and they sort of like peter out after like four weeks. I was like, Tom, I was taking a bet. I was like, I'm sort of buying a laptop for this guy. After a few weeks, he was like more into it than ever. He was like taking training classes, and he was delivering stuff to me, and I was giving him like hardcore notes. I was like, dude, this doesn't work. This blah blah blah. And I started to like hardcore give him feedback. He started to, and he could take it. And so months went by of him making music, and he just started making music, and more. I started using his music instead of like Music Bed, and then he just kept exploding. So now it's been, I guess that was May 2018, and so it's been 3 years of him and I just collabing, and he's become amazing. And now he makes music for like Nathaniel Drew and Drew Binsky and Yes Theory and like all these like top dogs, and and he's just so cool. And we still have that arrangement going. Though now when I have like a big gig or something, I'll pay him for his music. But like we still have this like trade going back and forth, and he's just amazing. I'm texting with him right now actually about some old track that I dug up that I'm putting in this Iceland video. Oh man, thanks for asking. That was good.
Amazing. Okay, we have two short questions that I'm going to ask on behalf of these individuals. One, what are your thoughts on Dogecoin? Two, which was the last shampoo that you used?
Oh man. Okay. those are two those are two very interesting questions that I guess I made videos kind of about both. Um so shampoo. The last shampoo I used was some like anti-dandruff like tea tree oil. And it was like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe more. I don't know. And I'm so glad my hair does not turn into a puffball anymore. And listen, I get this question a lot, which is what do you do with your hair if you don't shampoo it? The answer is I just wash it with like hot water. And I sort of like, I don't know, like rough it up a little bit to like stimulate the scalp, I guess, or something. But nothing. I do nothing to it. Well, does it smell bad? No, it doesn't smell bad. I don't know why. I wash it with water. Like it's fine. So maybe we just are so used to our hair having to smell like freaking chemical flowers that like we think that if it just smells like normal hair that it smells bad. But anyway, Dogecoin, I have no idea other than like there are so many jokey, memey financial things happening right now that are real because enough people think they're real. And that's literally our entire financial system. If enough people are on board, the mass psychology of humans is like, well, we value this and now there's money in it. So I believe that we are seeing a breakdown of traditional valuing systems. Dogecoin, NFTs, meme stocks, like GameStop, AMC are all an expression of like it's like a disruption in like how we used to value things, and it's almost like shining a light on how arbitrary it can be. And so I think we will see a shift in some way, I don't know what it's going to be, of like, oh, like institutions don't have to value things anymore. Like we're going to find decentralized ways of doing it. And Dogecoin is just one of many expressions. I think in 5 years, no one will remember Dogecoins in the same way that we don't remember CryptoKitties today. CryptoKitties were huge a couple years ago. Now they're worth like $2. I think these are all just like fun expressions that come and go. But I don't know, dude. I don't have a hot take on this. Like, this is not my wheelhouse. So this is just me guessing and pontificating.
Yeah. Here is your wheelhouse. Not Fool D has a question about international relations. So
Here we
being
go.
welcomed up.
I'm ready.
Hello. Can you
Hey
hear
there.
me?
Yeah, I hear you great. How's it going?
It's all good, thank you. I want to know, when do you have a realization to get degree in international relations? So was it a sudden process, or maybe it come from childhood, or I don't know.
That's a good question. I the true story here is that I was a film major. I was really into like film, and then I went to the film program at Brigham Young University, and I was like, man, this is not like they don't even let you hold a camera until like fourth year, and I was like, this is not what I want to do. So I actually then went on a Mormon mission for 2 years when I was 19, and I was on a bus in Tijuana, Mexico, looking at a catalog of the different degrees, like the different things you could study at BYU, and I saw international relations, and I was like, "That looks cool because it says international, and I want to travel." Like that was basically it. I was like, "I like international things." I had no idea what international relations was. I just knew that it had the word international, and that's why I chose it. And then when I got into it, I was like, oh, I like thinking about countries and why countries behave the way they do and why power works with different countries and why conflict happens. And so it was sort of accidental, but I ended up enjoying it. And then that's why I went on and got a master's degree in conflict resolution. Because of all the things I loved about international relations, it was always the borders, the lines that I was like, man, I'm obsessed with this, like lines. And like, why do we draw these lines and what happens at the lines? And like, that's conflict. Like, we draw borders because of conflict. And so I just have always felt, I don't know where it comes from. I think my time in Mexico maybe contributes to that. But I've always been drawn to maps. And I think I just naturally enjoyed that. And luckily, I've been able to turn it into a job that allows me to do film and international relations.
Okay, Johnny, this question is so hypothetical that I've been avoiding it, but people have
Oh,
spoken and keep voting it. So,
oh gosh.
Avioli, I'm inviting you up.
Oh no.
Hey Johnny, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, it's very good, thanks. Yeah, so my question was like, it's a two-parter, but just I'm going to ask the first part. Like, the World War II was a great tragedy, but what would have happened if Hitler had, invaded UK rather than USSR? And same with Pearl Harbor. Like, would the trajectory of the war change? Like, something, different had happened?
Man, that so these are questions in terms of grand strategy and uh history. You're I'm not the best versed in this, so I can't give a super educated view on how things could have changed or been different. I do know that if the US hadn't gotten involved, uh, because of Pearl Harbor, things obviously would have gone quite differently, I think. The US in the Pacific obviously completely changed things, and then with the atom bomb, that obviously changed things as well. But I visited Normandy a few years ago, northern France, the place where D-Day happened, where troops from the UK and the US hit the beaches to take France back from the Nazis. And when I captured the scale of how much power was implemented to make that happen, it really made me realize how important the US was as an alliance, in the alliance. Now, had Hitler put all of his forces to the west instead of going east, yeah, that probably would have changed things. That probably would have changed things. I don't know to what extent though, and I would love to know more. In fact, Iz and I were listening to a podcast about World War II, and we're like, man, we need to know more about this. Like, this was the biggest war in human history, and I feel like I don't understand it like enough, like to be able to answer a detailed question like that. My dream is actually to make a map splainer that isn't super detailed. Like, there's a bunch of hyper detailed every year of World War II, but a broad explainer of like, here's all the big things that happened in World War II with like all the big players. You have like the Nazi regime, you have like the Soviets, and then you have like Churchill, then you have like the US and France. And then you have, like how they're all playing around. Japan invades China, like that whole thing. I would love to do a map explainer that like really unpacks that. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know because I'm close to pulling the trigger on something like that because it's really interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my
Okay.
non-answer.
South Claus, you're being invited up, and Timmy, you are on deck after this.
Okay, South Claus.
Hi.
Hey there. How's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. Hey, Johnny and Jack. Yeah, I love your content, and I have for a long time. So,
Thank you.
yeah, my question is about sort of the video journalism industry and sort of moving, like, how viable and possible do you think it is for someone with a non-journalism background who hasn't sort of studied it properly, quote unquote? I suppose you haven't either, really, because you did filmmaking. But how possible is it to kind of get from that to where you got to with like working with these organizations like NYT and Vox and stuff like that? Like I have a software background, but I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I've done all sorts over the years, and I've always kind of had this inkling in the back of my mind of with video journalism and the kind of stuff you do. So I'm just wondering, like, your thoughts on like, how mobile it is to go, one career.
Yes. And that's a great question. And the answer, I wish I had a universalized theory on this. However, I have a couple of thoughts, which is what got me into Vox wasn't that I was a journalist or that I had, even in my international relations background, like I got into Vox because I could animate. I taught myself animation and I had this hard skill that like they wanted. And and in fact, everyone I know, like who got into Vox sort of without a traditional journalism background had that. Like Alvin, what was my colleague Alvin was a data scientist, and like he had like the data and mapping skills, and like he got in to do that for Vox, and then the journalism came. Um, I think that hard skills and expertise in those skills is undervalued in terms of like how important that is, especially in universities. Like they don't really train people in that, and they're not really good at training people in that. So I'm all about like, can you demonstrate that you can use your technical skills for storytelling and start to practice? Because I was practicing a bunch. And if I show you that work from the early days is garbage, but like at least I was taking my technical skills and trying to communicate something. And Vox saw that and they're like, oh, this guy's good at animating. He can use it to kind of explain things. But I wasn't writing anything. I didn't have any angles on anything. I was just animating what other people were writing. But in that process, I learned the art of journalism. And then I started writing and started to get cut down by Joss Fong, who would tell me all of the time that my scripts were garbage, and they were. And I learned a ton from having her give me feedback. But again, I led with that hard skill and this sort of seed that like this could be something bigger if it gets nurtured. And Vox saw that. And I really believe that there are a lot of, Now This or other sort of digital first publications that like are open to seeing talented people who have something to say, as long as they have a hard skill to like come in first. Because there's a million journalists who can write. It's like who has the hard skill to take interesting topics and turn them into something more than just writing. And I think that was the differentiator for me. So anyway, that's my answer. I think it's quite mobile if you're willing to put in the work of of doing a bunch of practice without getting paid and without anyone seeing it, and it's sort of garbage. Like I did that for years. It's very discouraging, but it's the way I got into my foot in the door.